Hi everyone, I'm April and you're watching the Tangled Cat Speaks. Today is October 31st, 2021, Halloween. I am not dressed up, obviously, but we're still gonna have a good time, right? So if you are a returning viewer, welcome back. And if you are new, welcome to my space. And let's see what we could come up with. If you don't know, I am an owner of cats that like to be vocal, and canaries. You're probably going to hear canaries. I'm sorry. I am a knitter and crocheter, and I talk mostly about that. Sometimes I will talk about books that I've read or movies that I've seen, maybe TV shows, just depending on what I feel like rambling about at the moment. So let's go ahead and get started. Let's see. So first thing I want to talk about is a few finished objects, and a couple of them I can't even show you because I don't have them. One of them I can't show you. I do have it, but I can't show you because it's a test knit and it hasn't been released yet. So this was the Pullover Pattern by Helen Kennedy, and I had mentioned that it's in DK weight. I used Toad Hollow in their Eleutheromania colorway and their Beech Nut Fairy colorway. So green and brown are the main colors. I don't have it here with me to show you even like a glimpse, but if you want to look at where I go into a little bit more depth on as far as the color and stuff like that, you can go into my last episode. But I did finish it. Rest assured, it is done. It is completed. I got it done in time for the deadline, and it fits so good. I am super, super happy with it. But sadly, I can't show you. So I will show you as soon as it's released. Another thing that I finished and I don't have, but I can put a picture of this up here, is a little amigurumi that I made using the Jason Voorhees pattern by Amy Chenoweth. It's a cute little Jason Voorhees doll, hockey mask and everything. I worked on that. It literally took me about 6 hours yesterday from start to finish, and I already gave it to my daughter, she wanted it. It was a request. So it's already in her hands, and I have some of the yarns that I used. Let's see, I'm trying to find one. I took the labels off because I was holding this double-stranded. So I was working from both the inside and the outside of the ball, except for this one I was able to keep it on. So what I used was Hirschner's 2-ply Afghan yarn, which is 100% acrylic, and it's a sport weight. So I held it double-stranded. So I used black earth, which is a real pretty dark brown. It's actually darker than what it's showing up here. Let's see, this one is called medium gray, but it looks very light to me. But Hirschner's has this labeled as medium gray. And then I don't have the dark gray ball with me, but there is a dark gray. This one is called olive. And what else? This one is navy. And I used a USF hook, and that was a 3.75 millimeter. So that worked really well with the yarns held double. It was perfect. I didn't have any problems, and it came out so cool. The pattern was a little bit, it wasn't hard, but if you're a brand new crocheter, you might find it a little bit difficult because she doesn't really say a whole lot about what the abbreviations mean. So you kind of got to go in knowing a little bit about what she means. She's not really one of those hand-holding kind of patterns. I've been crocheting since 1995, so it wasn't too bad for me, but I can see how a new crocheter might have some questions. But other than that, it was pretty much straightforward. I didn't have any problems, any questions with what was going on with the pattern. Had a really, really good time with it, and I got it done, and my daughter was super, super happy with it. She's been wanting something like that for quite a while. She actually wants me to make her one of the face huggers from Alien. I just haven't gotten around to making that quite yet, and I'm probably going to need to get a few more things because it's the little legs have pipe cleaners. That's mostly what I got to get, is pipe cleaners to go into the legs so that you can bend them. But that's for maybe next Halloween. I don't know. It's kind of more of a bigger project, so we'll see. So that was my second finished object, and I've got a couple more that I can show you. So I believe her podcast is called Soxy Nana Alice, and she mentions quite a few times in her podcast, or has mentioned quite a few times in her podcast, about some spiral ribbed socks that she's made and given as gifts, especially for children, because you don't really have to know the child's size per se. Because it's a rib, it'll stretch and grow. And the cool thing about them is that you don't need heels, because just the way that it's made, it just stretches over your heel and works great. And for children, you can make this one size and they'll grow into it. So this is what it looks like. It's a little bit bigger because obviously I'm an adult. These were for me. And also the pattern that I found, there's quite a few patterns that are for spiral no heel socks. I actually found quite a few, but the one that I found was, they were all for fingering weight. And I wanted to make this in a worsted weight. So I did have to kind of modify and figure out the numbers to get the pattern, to get the spiral to work correctly, but it wasn't that difficult to figure out. And I did it toe up. It was, I always get the name wrong. Is it Judy's Magic Cast On? Judy's Magic, yeah. Judy's Magic Cast On. And I did up to 44 stitches, but the way that the pattern is written, it's in multiples of 6. So I ended up having to decrease 2 stitches to get down to 42 so that the pattern would work. I tried doing it at 48, but it was a little too loose for my liking. So I did that, and these fit, and I'll put in a picture here of it on a sock blocker so that you can see how it goes over your heel. And obviously there is no heel here. It's literally just a tube sock. And they're so cozy and so comfortable, especially because I did it in a heavier weight yarn. Actually, I did use fingering weight, but I used fingering weight held double. Now the yarns that I used, let me show you this up close. I don't know if you can really see, but it's mostly gray with some flashes of red, orange, yellow, and if you look really closely, you can see some purples and pinks. That's because this yarn is by Peepaloo Fields. I got this back in 2016, and I'll put pictures up here of what it looks like before I did all this, because I didn't think to take a picture beforehand. But this one is called, I don't know, Rainbows in the Rain or something like that. I'll put the names up on the screen. And this one is Cloudy Sunrise. And basically what this is when you unwind the hank, it's all gray except for the one little, literally a section, maybe about that long, of just the color. So on this one, it goes from red to orange to yellow back to orange. And on this one, it did a little pastel kind of rainbow, which started at purple, and then it went to like a teal, this really vibrant green, and then it went to yellow, and then to pink. Little tiny, tiny bit of orange, but very, very little. And so what that does is it just creates like little random blips every now and then of these colors, but it's mostly gray. So what I did here was I held the two yarns together, so they kind of, sometimes they were separate, like you could see some of the teal there. The colors were separate, and then there's other sections where the two colors overlapped. And it's just really cool. You really can't notice that there were two different yarns in this. It just looks kind of like it goes together. Now this was, I think I used 58 grams total. So out of the 200 grams that I had, I used, is that right? 58. I think so. No. 58. 58 times 2, whatever that is. And then whatever I had left, I decided I was going to make a beanie with it. I just can't do math right now. I feel very ashamed that I can't do math on the spot. Anyway, so I decided to make a beanie with it, but I wanted a fingering weight beanie. So I thought I was going to go ahead and use these same two colors and just do them helical knitting. And that worked out really, really well. And I made the sock head hats. And I'll put the name of the designer here because I can't for the life of me remember it. I've made this a few times in the past, but it's turned out super good. I didn't make it as long as it said here. It said to do, I believe it was 8 inches from the end of the ribbing, and then to before you start your decreases should be 8 inches, and I only did 4. So it's not as slouchy as it usually is in the patterns, but I like it a little bit closer to my head. Plus I wasn't sure how much yarn I was going to have left, but I ended up with about 13 grams of each. So I still have enough here to maybe do some sock heels and toes and cuffs and something else. So I think it's a pretty good deal for, you know, for your yarn. I got 2 projects and, you know, some leftovers to use in other stuff. Plus I'm going to put it in my memory blanket that I haven't worked on in months and months and months. But I really, really like it because this one was done helically. You can kind of see where the colors were separate and they were just kind of chasing each other. And then at some point they kind of met up. And so here they're overlapping, but you got mostly gray in there. And I think it turned out really, really pretty. It's just super fun. Really, really cool. That's all I have for finished objects. I've been working on a lot of stuff, but it's pretty much the same things. Once I finished the sweater and I got the start-itis going with these 2 things, and then I did the little Jason Voorhees doll. Everything else has just been kind of put to the wayside. I haven't been doing as much yarny stuff because I was reading quite a bit. So I'm still working on a lot of things, but my sister had seen those spiral rib socks and she said she wanted a pair for herself. So I have started this one whip that I can show you. I have started another pair, and this is using 2 yarns that I had gotten, oh, maybe about 3 years ago, 2-3 years ago from Hue Loco. And oh, there's a cat here on there. These are her glitz sock base, so there is some sparkle to it. I don't know if you could see that. And because it's worsted weight, I didn't have 2 really. Didn't really have 2 of anything that I had enough for, and so I wanted to try holding 2 different colors together to see how it works. And these are similar enough, I think, that it's gonna work. Obviously this is gray with lots of pinks and purples and blues, a little bit of yellow in here, yellowy brown. And this one has a tiny bit of the pinks and some of that yellowy brown in it. But this isn't, this is more of a browny gray, where this is kind of a gray. But together, you can't even tell that they're two different colors in there. Less so than you did with this particular combo. I mean, if you didn't know, you would think this was one colorway. But because I know, I can see where they differ. On this one, I can't tell at all where one color is and the other color isn't, if that makes sense. So it's working out really well. So my sister's gonna have some socks whenever I decide to finish them. I am using, I don't know if I mentioned, I don't think I did. These are on, I'm making these with my ChowGoo 9-inch circulars, and it's the US 5 needles, which is the 3.75 millimeter. I could probably have done them on a 4, but I was just kind of guessing, like I said, because the pattern I had was for fingering weight. So I was just kind of playing around, and I like the fabric that this is. It could be a little tighter. If I were wearing these in shoes, I would definitely want it to be a tighter gauge so that they would hold up longer. But these are just for around the house because they are worsted. They're not going to fit in any of my shoes anyway. So since they're just for around the house, I didn't mind that it's a little bit of a looser gauge. But I probably could have done these on a 4. But it's coming out really well. I did, I actually have like I think I mentioned before, I have a lot of DPNs that I kind of inherited over the years. And I don't even have a full set of these, but these are aluminum. I am assuming that these are boys. But I was missing one of the blues, but I happen to have a set of 3 greens. So I don't have a full set of hardly anything, but they're all 5s. They're kind of long, but I have a bunch of them, and I learned circular knitting on DPNs, so they're not uncomfortable to me at all. But I do love working on the 9-inch. I know that some people have a hard time with how to hold it, but I find kind of this is how I hold mine. Like, if that makes any sense. I've got the yarn here because I am a continental knitter. It's in my left hand. And then like these here are the ones that are holding the needles, because the needle tips are only about this long. So these ones, and these ones are just kind of like there. They don't really do anything. I'm not putting any kind of pressure with these fingers, because I noticed when I first started using circulars that I was trying to squeeze with all of them, and I was getting a cramp right here. But after a while, I learned to really, these guys really aren't doing a whole lot. So I relaxed that part of my hand, and that cramping went away pretty easily. And I'm really doing all the work with basically these 2 fingers, well, 4 fingers, and the thumbs. And I've just managed to find a way over time. I didn't let the pain here get me down and stop me from using them. I just kept persevering, and I found a comfortable way for me to hold them. I don't know if that is comfortable for anybody else, but that's how I've found that it works for me. And I just I've learned to consciously relax this part of my hand, because that's where it was really, really hurting, because I was trying so hard to like grip this tiny little cable. But I found a way to get used to it, and I really like it. I very much dislike magic loop. I can do it. I don't like it. And I think there was a time that I even tried using 2 circular needles for things like hats and stuff, and I don't like using the 2 circular needles either. So this is my preferred way, and I really like them. So that's that. I really don't have, I feel weird. I don't have a whole lot of things to just ramble on about. So I guess that means that we're going to get into other stuff. So Dune happened. Oh my gosh. I told you that I was reading the book for the very first time before, I think I told you, before the movie was going to come out, so that I can know what the movie is. I had heard about this book growing up all my life, but I never got around to reading it. It wasn't like a conscious decision to not read it. I just never did. I was just so, I think mostly at the time growing up, it was mostly Stephen King stuff. And then I kind of found my way to Agatha Christie, and it wasn't like a, oh, heck no, I'm not going to read Dune. It just didn't pop up in my mind often enough to think about it. But now the movie was coming up and I was super excited. So I listened to the audiobook the day I finished it, the day before the movie came out. Holy Hannah, I loved it. I loved it. The movie was so good. Oh, I was super happy. I've already watched it twice. I plan on watching it some more. Actually, I think I'm going to do that later tonight, as a matter of fact. I really enjoyed it. I think they did a really good job, especially with the casting. But they did a good job of just portraying that whole planet. I loved it. I super happy about it. What else? I've been watching, speaking of Stephen King, I think this is kind of loosely based on some Stephen King, or might be related to Stephen King in some way, but I've been watching Midnight Mass on Netflix. I'm about halfway through that series, and it's really good. It's kind of spooky. I'm really enjoying that. Everybody's talking about Squid Games. I have no desire to watch Squid Games. It just doesn't seem like my kind of thing at all, so I haven't even tried to watch it. Let's see, what else? I can't think. There's just so much that I've mostly been reading, but I'm trying to think. There's something else that I've been watching. I'm really enjoying Why the Last Man on Hulu. Well, I like it. There's more about it that I like than I don't like. There are some things about it that I don't like, but overall, I'm really enjoying. Overall, I'm enjoying the show. So I think I'm caught up with episodes, but I don't think the season is done yet. So I've been watching that, and then I've been watching, what is it called? Oh my gosh, is it called Sherlock? I think it's called Sherlock. And I found it on HBO, and it's Japanese. It's a Japanese female detective who people tease her because of her eccentricities and kind of the way she goes about things and her aloofness and kind of different things about her personality that remind them of Sherlock Holmes. So they kind of call her Sherlock as a joke, but that's kind of, the show is basically Sherlock Holmes style, the way that she figures out the cases and stuff. I've really been enjoying that. It's a little bit like I can't watch that while I'm knitting because it's subtitles, which is fine. I like subtitles, so I'm enjoying that show as well. I think I'm about halfway through that one too. But let's see. Let's talk about books. This is going to be a relatively short video because I don't really have a whole lot of knitting stuff to talk to you about right now. So I don't know why I closed my little book. This is the only thing that I keep notes on. I keep a little notebook of everything that I read, and also my projects. Oh my gosh, this is just books from the beginning of the year. All of that page, those 2 pages, that one. I'm starting another page here. I list what type of book it is because I usually do either electronic books, physical books, or audiobooks. So I have it marked as to which type of book it is, the title, the day I started it, and the day I finished. I don't know why. I just find that very fascinating to just list it. And I do the same thing with my projects. I have it noted whether it's crochet or knitting, and I think I even have a cross stitch in there. The date I started it, the date I finish it, all of that kind of stuff. So, but what I read for spooky season, because that's what I was doing. All of October was spooky season. Oh man. Most of it was audiobooks. I did, let's see. Legend of Sleepy Hollow. I had never read that before, and I didn't realize how short that book is. But Legend of Sleepy Hollow by Washington Irving, and I was used to the old Disney, I think it's Disney cartoon, and then also the movie a while back with Johnny Depp and Christina Ricci. completely different. This is a very, very short book, but and it's not necessarily scary, but it is kind of creepy. I really, really enjoyed that. I listened to The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson, which was really, really good. There's been a few movie adaptations from that story, and I think I've seen all of them, and I really like them. But reading the book is really, really good. I enjoyed that a lot. I read a manga because apparently I'm into manga these days. I don't have the name of the author. I'll have to put it up here. I'm not even sure I can pronounce it, but it's called Tokyo Undead. And so it was a manga that was basically one event involving zombies, but it was, I think it was 4 or 5 little short stories, different people's perspectives, different parts of the city and what happened in their situation regarding this same zombie invasion. It was really, really good. And my goodness, the art in these mangas are just amazing. And then I read another manga, but this was a series. It was volumes 1 through 4 of Monstrous. And this was by Marjorie Liu. And I think I don't think I know. There's 2 more volumes out, but my library doesn't have them yet. They're ordered and I'm first in line to get those. I'm super excited. But this one, it wasn't so much scary as it is just kind of like a dark fantasy. But man, I ate those up like crazy. They were so, so good. And again, outstanding artwork in these things. It's got some gory parts and stuff like that. But overall, everything was just beautifully illustrated. I really, really enjoyed that one. Let's see. I listened to another book called Vespers, and I'll put the author's name up here too. I liked that one because it was more like monstery kind of. It was just basically, I think it's New York. Yeah, it's New York, and there's this sudden attack of vampire bats. It was really, really interesting, and it was basically more of your, kind of monsterish horror, and it was really, really good. It wasn't the scariest thing that I've read, but it was engaging, and I really, really had fun with it. There's a couple of plot holes that I'm just like, wasn't exactly believable, but it was entertaining, and I really, really enjoyed that one. Re-listened to Dracula. Really, really cool. Last year I listened to Dracula, and that was with Alan Cummings and Tim Curry as a couple as part of an all-cast group of people who read the book instead of just one narrator. I really enjoyed that one last year, but this year I listened to a different one, and I can't think of the name of the person who read the book, but it was just one person reading. And I think I enjoyed that better as opposed to the other one that seemed a little more dramatized. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I do enjoy books like that, and I did enjoy the one last year, but I think I liked the one reader better. The one reader doing multiple voices as opposed to different people doing each voice. I think it was less startling for my ear, if that makes any kind of sense. But I really love, Dracula. I love, love, love it. Let's see. I think, and I read, and it's not really, I thought it was going to be scary because it was Stephen King. And it was really, really super short. So I thought, I'm going to get that one. And it was called Elevation. It really wasn't scary. So that's where people get confused with Stephen King, is he's not just horror. He does some different kinds of stories as well. One of my favorites is The Eyes of the Dragon, which is basically like a young adult fantasy. Very interesting. It's got some dark components to it, but it's not horror. And this one was just kind of strange. This one was, it was good, but it was weird. It was just about a man who looked physically the same, which was, he appeared overweight. But every time he stepped on the scale, he would be down a couple of pounds. And even if he were to hold on to something heavy when he stepped on the scale, it would always stay the same whether he was holding that object or not. And then the next day it was a pound or two less, and little by little he's slowly losing weight, even though he physically looks the same. And it's a short story, and it's really, really interesting. And it was kind of sad at the end. I really liked it, but I was expecting scary because it was Stephen King. I should know better because he doesn't do just scary. But I really liked it, and there was some references to things that I had never read before, other books. So, and I know Stephen King does that a lot. He kind of ties in and mentions other books, and it's all this big tangled web of stuff. So there was other things that led me to other books that I might read in the future. So I'm super excited about that. So after being super excited about Dune, I listened to the audiobook for the second book by Frank Herbert, which was Dune Messiah. And that was quite a bit shorter. Not my favorite. I think the first book is my favorite so far out of the two. But I like it, and I finished that within a day. I think there's a third book. I think it's called Children of Dune. And I have that one on hold at the library, so I'm waiting for that to come in. But I'm just on this Dune roller coaster, and I'm super excited. And I understand that they're already planning the second movie, because the first one does kind of leave you kind of on a cliffhanger, because it's only this movie was only the first half of the first book. So super excited. I just wish it wouldn't take so long. And I am just about done listening to The Hobbit, which is being read by Andy Serkis. If you don't know, and I don't know how you couldn't know, but Andy Serkis was the person who did the voice of Gollum in the Lord of the Rings trilogy movies. And man, he is doing such a good job. I was worried that he was going to sound just the same throughout the whole thing, but he's doing a really, really good job making all of the voices sound distinct. So very much enjoying that. I think I've got about an hour left on that audio, so I'm going to finish that tonight. And then the big one for spooky season was this, and I'm not done with it yet, but it's Salem's Lot. Salem's Lot. And I'm almost done. This, and actually I've only got about 80 pages left of Salem Lot. It looks like there's more, and there is, because right after Salem's Lot is the short story One for the Road, and also the other short story Jerusalem's Lot, which were both in the other book of collected novellas, or collected short stories. It was called Night Shift. But those two tie into the same town that Salem's Lot takes place in. So those two are in there. And then there's also what is being called deleted scenes to Salem's Lot. So I guess things that he cut out before he originally published it. And so they're all in there. I don't know if I'm going to read those, but I definitely want to get Salem's Lot, Jerusalem's Lot, and One for the Road done maybe tonight. So as soon as I'm done doing this, I'm going to get that read. And then if I have time, I want to rewatch Dune. So let's see. That's really about it. I've got some books set up, ready to go for November. I'm starting this one. Super cute. It's a small book. It's by Helene Thurston, and it's An Elderly Lady Must Not Be Crossed. Now this is a sequel. Look at the flowers. They look like little skulls. I believe this author is Swedish, and it's translated into English. But I am reading this because the first one there's one that I read last year or maybe 2 years ago by her, and it was called An Elderly Lady is Up to No Good. And it's basically short stories, but they all focus around this one elderly woman. And in that first book, she's 80 something, and she's living in this big apartment building, and bad things start happening. And it's her, but nobody thinks it's her because she's so old. And so, it's just kind of like, it's different things happen. Murder does happen. And now this book just recently came out, and apparently this is a continuation of that, because there are people starting to question that maybe just because she's old, she's not as innocent as she thinks. So this is kind of a continuation. So I'm super excited about it. And it's funny, the way that it's written is just so sarcastic in a way, because you can kind of hear her thoughts and her process as to why she's doing these things. And it's just funny. Like, it shouldn't be, because she's doing bad things, but it's just funny. I'm really, really enjoying it. So I'm super excited. I'm going to read that, and it shouldn't take long. It's super short and the stories go real quick. But I've also signed up for a read along that starts now in November, and it's going to be, there's a few of them actually that I signed up for because I'm crazy and I like to sign up for a whole bunch of things and then feel overwhelmed. One of them is The Lord of the Rings. That's why I was listening to The Hobbit, because they're going to be reading The Lord of the Rings, one book a month starting November. So now that I finished The Hobbit, one of my next audiobooks is going to be Fellowship of the Ring. And then there's another series that I'm starting that is by this author that I've never read before, Fonda Lee. This is the first book in this series, Jade City. And I also have the second book, and these are all from the library. I don't own these books. Jade War. And there's a third book coming out mid-November called Jade Legacy, and that's, I think, the end to the whole trilogy. So the plan is for me to read these two books now in November, and then in December read the last book, assuming that it comes into the library by then. I know they've ordered it, it just hasn't arrived yet. So, and I don't know anything about this other than that it's got magic, and it's fantasy, and it's, I don't know, that's about it. That's about all I know about it. I don't know if this is going to be like dark fantasy where it's going to be a lot of violence, like an overabundance, to my opinion, of violence. I know a lot of people enjoy that. I don't necessarily. I can deal with a little bit of the violence if it seems necessary, but there are some books that I have been reading lately that I kind of have to give up on. I'm not going to name them, but I feel like they're just doing a lot of torture kind of stuff just for the sake of getting something gruesome on the page. So if it kind of propels the story forward, then I'm all for it. But if it becomes too much, it doesn't, you kind of get desensitized, and it's just not as profound, if that makes any sense. So hopefully this isn't going to be like that, but I've heard a lot of good things about this series, and it is a read along, so it'll be fun to read books with people online that I've never met before, and we get to all talk about it. I feel like I've been talking really, really fast. That on top of the fact that I don't have a whole lot to talk about anyway, it seems like everything is just fast. My tea has gotten cold over here. I'm drinking some matcha green tea. Yeah, it's gone tepid, but that's okay. I still like it. That's about it. There are some other books that I plan on reading next. Oh, I forgot to mention the Michael Crichton one that we've been reading. The next one that I'm coming up on is Rising Sun, and I found an audio for that, so that won't be so bad. I go through audios like crazy. I mean, all of the books that I had gone through last month, most of them were audios. So, and that's what I knit with, so I go through a lot of them. I'm really, really enjoying all of that. And yes, we hear you. You had to meow at the beginning of the episode, and now you're meowing at the end. We hear you. Silly cats. Actually, I don't think my birds really made a whole lot of noise this time. That's interesting. Happy Halloween, because it is Halloween, even though I'm here podcasting and not out doing Halloweeny stuff. Other than reading this book, I can't believe how scary this is, even though I've read it before. It's been 42, I think 42 or 40, somewhere 40, 42 years since I've read it. And I was 9 at the time. Who let me read this at night? Actually, no, it's funny because I don't think my parents knew what I was reading. It's not that I was hiding it from them, but they just assumed because I got it from the school library that it was okay. They didn't question what I was reading. And I wasn't having nightmares or anything, so it wasn't a problem. But now that I'm an adult and I'm a parent, I keep thinking, how was this in an elementary school library? Because at 9 years old, you're still in elementary. And that's the only place I would have gotten a book, was from the school library. We didn't go to the public library very much, and we didn't buy books. Who put that in the school? And actually, that's where I read all my Stephen King books. And because I started at a very young age. I read, the first one I read was Night Shift. I got that one from the library, and then I think this was the second book that I ever read. I think I might be more scared now than I was when I was 9. It's insane. It is insane. But I can't believe how much I still love this story. This has got to be one of my favorite of the horror books that Stephen King has done. This is one of my favorites. My favorite of all time is Eyes of the Dragon, but that's because I love dragons and I love fantasy. And it's kind of a soft fantasy, so nothing too gruesome, but that's my favorite one. So I hope you all have a wonderful evening. I hope you have a wonderful November, and I will see you at the end of next month. Thank you for spending your time with me, and I can't wait to hang out with you again next time. Bye.